Hello guys, so welcome to my channel. So today I'll be talking about how to show proof of funds. Yeah, so if you are new to this channel provides unique information on how you can apply for visas all by yourself. So today's video I'll be sharing with you how you can use certain documents to show your proof of funds. So I'll be giving you 8 ways of how to go about this, and I believe once you listen to this video, once you watch this video, you'll be able to be better guided on what certain documents you need to present for your proof of funds. So let's begin. Okay, yeah, so the first document, of course, the most popular document people use for proof of funds is the bank statement, right? Your statement generated from your private account or your business account. So it's a document issued by the bank. So it's popular, right? And usually it shows the minimum balance of what you have available to expend on whatever trip you're planning for, right? And usually it's often between a specified period. So some countries use 6 months, some use 3 months. So for instance, for the case of the Canada study visa, your proof of funds for the Canada study visa needs to meet the IRCC requirement. So for instance, if you're studying as a single applicant, you need to have first, your proof of funds should cover your 1 year tuition fee to the cost for 1 year, and also the 1 year cost for your living cost. Yeah, right. So in this case, it's around approximately 21,000 Canadian dollars. So once you sum that up, then of course you have cost for your travel expenses. So you have 3 costs that your proof of funds, which is your bank statement in this case, needs to meet. Okay, so for persons specifically going for visiting visa, so this is a very clear logic of how you can calculate your proof of funds. So for instance, if your planned expenses for a particular trip is, let's say, around maybe $2,000 for instance, then your proof of funds, which is the minimum money that would be represented in your bank account, should be at least $3,500, because it doesn't make any sense if you have $2,000 as your closing balance and your travel expense is $2,000. It gives a very wrong sign to the embassy that you will not come back, because you are expending all your savings on that trip. Particularly for UK, it's a very big red flag, and they would refuse you visas, and they would clearly give you the same reason I'm giving you. So ensure that whatever proof of funds you are presenting to support your application for tourist applications now, it needs to at least sit well with the spending your expenses for the trip. So don't use all your money on as a closing balance to state that that's your travel expense. Ensure that you leave good balance. When you remove the travel expense, if you follow the logic I just shared with you, then it will help you to have a sense of how or what the proof of funds should look like for tourist visas. And for instance, if you're looking at the travel expenses, so if you look at the cost for travel, which is the flight ticket, your accommodation, of course, depending on the number of days you'll be spending. So flight tickets, cost for flight tickets, cost for accommodation, then cost for miscellaneous, so some sundry costs. So if you add these 3 up, it should be able to give you the total sense of what the travel cost will cover. So if you add that up, whatever you're doing, you should leave way above minimum rather, you should have at least 50% over your travel cost. So if you are spending $2,000 in a trip, then your proof of funds should read above 3,500, so that it gives you a very good balance when you're applying for your visa. So your bank statement is the first document you can have as a proof of fund, to show as a proof of fund. Yes, so based off of my own experience, also another document you can use to show proof of funds is a fixed deposit certificate. So these certificates are usually documents issued by the bank which shows a fixed deposit amount in that person's account at a specified period of time. So if you're using this type of document as your proof of funds, of course, ensure that the maturity time of your deposit certificate should coincide with the time you will be needing the funds, right? It's very important. So for instance, if you are to visit a country, let's say August 1st, 2024, then the maturity or liquidity time should fall within the last week of July 2024, so that the embassy and the visa officers will see that you have access to the fund. So it's very important. So you can actually use a fixed deposit certificate as a proof of funds, but you ensure that you time it well so that you have it shows that at the point of your application, it shows that you really have access to that particular funds when you want to use it for your trip. So I've used a fixed deposit certificate for someone to apply for a Canada study application, and the application got approved. So fixed deposit certificate can be used as a document to show your proof of funds. Yes, so another document you can use to show your proof of funds like available for your trip is the proof of personal income. So this includes documents such as your pay slips, employment contracts, and your tax returns. So tax return certificate, or we call it tax clearance certificate, right? To show that you have a stable income in your home country. So if you are, for instance, applying as a principal applicant, you're self-sponsored, you're sponsoring yourself, then you should be able to include in your documentation your pay slips and those documents that mentioned to show that you can sponsor yourself through the stable income you have over the past year. So for instance, if you're using your pay slips, then you should have 6 months pay slips towards your submission time for your application, of course, your employment contract. Then also you need to also include a letter of introduction from work, which of course states holistically that you're an employee and you've been there for so period, and you're going for this particular program or activity in the country you're applying for. So either ways, most times this kind of document for proof of funds that are vital for people going for tourism or short-term visits, so that it also proves that they have home tie back home because they have a work, or they have an economic tie back home and they need to come back to their work. So your pay slips, or rather the proof of personal income, is another critical document you can use to show your proof of funds when you're applying for a visa. Okay, so yes, for most persons, right, you might not necessarily have the money, then you need a financial sponsor. So this is another form of or show of your proof of funds, right? So sponsorship letters from your sponsor can be used as a show of proof of funds, right? But again, just listen carefully, not just only sponsorship letter. So if you have someone else that is sponsoring your trip or stay, you will need to provide a letter signed and authorized by them to show that they will be sponsoring you. Not only providing the letter, you need to also provide the proof of their financial resources. So for instance, some documents you can use to prove their own financial resources could include the proof of their own personal assets, employment conditions. So if your sponsor is employed or he has a business, so if he's employed, he needs employment letters, pay slips, and what have you. But if he has a business, then he needs information documents supporting that he has a viable business in his own country. So of course, copies of the registration certificate, copies of invoices that the business have been producing over the years. So for instance, receipts, even evidence of our contract award letters, and what have you, could be used to support the letter that will be provided by your sponsor. So it is critical that you don't just only support a sponsorship letter, right? You should attach proof of their financial resources to back up that sponsorship letter. Of course, it needs to also provide the bank statement in addition to the sponsorship letter. Then another thing I advise people to get is the affidavit of support, which is of course a legal document. Legally binding document promising that the financial support from the sponsor will be released to the applicant. So that gives a very strong backing, a legal backing, and a legal sense of commitment to that particular process. And most times, embassy would want to take such document with strong connections, rather than just making it look like, oh, the person does not have what he or she wants to sponsor the person for. So legal documents are strong to support the claim of sponsorship of your sponsor. So it is important that you include that in your application. So aside all these documents I've mentioned, another thing you need to prove in addition to the sponsorship letter is to prove relationship with your sponsor. So most times people ask, how do you do that? Well, so basically, if you have someone in your family relation, then you can have a birth certificate that shows that you bear the same name, right? If you don't have that as a claim of relationship, then you can look far back as the connection between that your sponsor, your parent, and your parent, right? If you don't have that also, then the legal document, which is the affidavit of support, can cover up for everything, right? So if you can't prove that this sponsor is like closely related to you because you don't share the same name and what have you, that affidavit of support should include a line to say that this person I'm sponsoring has this kind of relationship with me, right? So as a sponsor, so that also gives it the backing. Because for instance, the affidavit of support, like what I also advise people to do is, once you get it issued by a court in your country, then you get it legalized by the foreign ministry in your own country. So you can see it's a two thing. There's a legal there's a legal confirmation. The document is legally confirmed, and also it is legalized by the foreign ministry. So that gives it huge credibility, and that gives it a huge force to support the claim for sponsorship. So it is important you do all these things to ensure that your visas are granted, or to ensure that the chances of your visas are well improved, because you can, even when you submit all these documents, at times it doesn't guarantee that you will be issued the visa, but we're just saying that it would improve the chances of your visa. Yes, so another document that you can use as to show your proof of funds, of course, is the scholarship award letters, but this is not actually peculiar to everybody. And it is just for people who have been awarded scholarships, right? So if you're a student and you're going on a visit, or you're going to visit the country based off of the scholarship award, then you should include the scholarship award letter, because the scholarship award letter, of course, we give details of what the scholarship covers, the cost, and the amount of the scholarship cover. So that's, I mean, a good document to include to show proof of funds for people who are students on scholarship. Again, people get scholarship to attend conferences, so those kind of documents are also vital. So either way, students, or you're being invited for a conference or internship or whatever, you always include that letter and ensure that that letter meets the basic requirements, which include stating the cost of what the scholarship covers and what have you. So that's important. So you can use that to show your proof of funds while you're submitting your visa application. So the sixth document you can use to show your proof of funds is the proof of assets. In some cases, you may need to provide proof of ownership of assets, such as properties or investments. So for instance, the deeds of assignment, sales agreements, survey plans, certificates of ownership, etc. are what you can use to show your proof of funds. But remember that you cannot use only the proof of assets as your proof of funds. You need to attach this proof of assets with a financial document. So let me explain, right? So for instance, if you want to use your proof of funds, you want to use your proof of assets as a proof of funds, you don't just submit your proof of assets, you don't just submit your deeds of assignment, property documents and all that, and you assume that it would meet up the requirements for proof of funds. That would be a very big mistake to make. So what the proof of assets gives support on is the fact that it builds up, it makes your proof of your claim for proof of funds, it make it stronger. So if you're supporting a proof of funds, that is the bank statement, which meets the minimum requirement and meets the minimum balance, and attaching it with a proof of asset is a great asset to you. It's a great way to show you have good source of income, to be able to go on that trip you're going for. It also proves to the embassy that you have home ties, right? So either ways, it gives you two sides benefit. So it is very critical that if you can show proof of assets, please ensure that it's included in your application alongside the bank statement and any other financial document you'll be using to show your proof of funds. Then the seventh document that we can use to show proof of funds is basically the bank letters. And so in some countries, for me in Nigeria, usually it's the bank statement that most times bankers use to give to customers. I think some banks also kind of, yes, you issue bank letters, because I've treated applications for Poland before, and what they requested for was a confirmation of deposits in their account, right, with the credit card details and what have you. But that aside, you can use bank letters to show proof of funds, and this bank letters basically just confirms the account balance as at when that letter was issued and the financial status of the person or applicant giving that support. So for instance, if you have a sponsor and he's telling you what he can issue you is just bank letters and duly issued by the bank, then you should collect that. You shouldn't say, oh, you need bank statement, because you can use bank letters duly signed and stamped by the banks as a show of proof of funds. It is obtainable. It is you can, yes, it is acceptable. So you don't need to worry about that. Yes, the last thing, particularly for students, that you can use, the last document that you can use to show your proof of funds is the proof of payment. So if you've paid your tuition already, if you've paid other expenses like accommodation, feeding, and what have you, you can provide the receipts of such payments to show, to add to what you would be using as your proof of funds, right? So again, you cannot use this document alone, but you need to attach other vital documents to sum up your case for your proof of funds. Okay, so guys, I've been able to give you 8 ways of how to show your proof of funds with the document I've listed on this video. But you remember that overall you can use a combination of either of these documents to make a strong show of your proof of funds for your application. You don't need to use one, you don't need to use only one. You can combine them together. You can even, if you have all these documents I've mentioned, perfect, you can still add it up together to show a very strong case of your claim for proof of funds. Okay, so guys, thank you very much for watching. If you find it very useful, if you find information useful, please subscribe, please click the like button. Please also comment, drop your comments in the comment section. Let's just share ideas of what you feel about your proof of funds and what your experience is on using some of these documents I've shared with you. So till we meet again through another exciting video, so through another informative video, thank you, and please stay safe. Bye bye.